From a theoretical perspective, there's no such thing as a classic Disney film. This year there are 3 Disney live-action remakes coming out, Dumbo, Aladdin and The Lion King. This is like the peak of a trend that we've seen. We've seen remakes of Alice in Wonderland and The Jungle Book and Beauty and the Beast. The original live-action remake was actually from the 90s. We've got Glenn Close as Cruella de Vil in 101 Dalmatians. And that film wasn't as successful as they wanted it to be. So 20 years later, we're seeing this new wave of huge budget remake films. This kind of comes from Disney making fun of itself. Disney started to really parody itself, and we see this in its animated output too. So if you look at something like Frozen, that really deconstructs some of the tropes that we saw in earlier Disney films like Love at First Sight and the sort of things that have been criticised by modern audiences. I think they'll be much more modern. If you look at Dumbo especially, the original Dumbo was released in the 1940s and was an extremely short film. So there's not a lot, in terms of a remake, there's not a lot there for a modern 2-hour film. So I think especially Tim Burton's influence will really come forward. If we look at something like Beauty and the Beast, in the new live-action remake, Belle's become much more feminist and much more independent. If we look at something like The Lion King was maybe more of a modern story than people realise and more of an influential story than people realise. There's a lot of parallels with Hamlet, which is a really interesting story for Disney to have pursued in the first place. That kind of reintroduction of these very classic stories, I think, is what the audiences are looking for. They really want that kind of nostalgia, immersive feeling, just with a slightly more modern outlook. To somebody of my age, of my generation, the Disney Renaissance is like the big thing. The Disney Renaissance was a period during the 1990s where Disney films were extremely popular and making lots of money, and really, the audiences really loved these films. Films such as The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King and Aladdin are all part of that umbrella. So to me, that's my favourite Disney era, but I don't know how we could properly define classic Disney. I am such a huge Lion King fan. I'm just excited to see where they go with it, and I think the cast looks incredible. We've got Beyonce and Donald Glover. Surely they're going to be incredible. I also was a huge Robin Williams fan, particularly as him as the genie in Aladdin. So I'm really interested and really looking forward to how Will Smith's going to do with that. During my undergraduate degree at Bangor University, I started to write about Disney films. There's an opportunity to write about whatever you want to write about with your dissertation, and Bangor provided me with the opportunity to write a deconstruction of certain themes in Disney. And it was whilst I did that that I realised that that was what I wanted to do, and was able to pursue that with my PhD.